Flying paramotors can be physically demanding. Dang, I think this thing weighs maybe 75 pounds right now with all this fuel in it. No cars, cool, no cars. Woohoo! This is my spot. I've deemed this my spot. Ta-da! Okay. We'll go get the glider. The time is now 6:44. I'm grabbing my Dudek Universal. It's such a safe glider, holy smokes. It's so ideal for just going out and cruising. I've seen some videos on the internet about gliders lately. I don't think I agree with the way that it seems kind of one-sided, you know? Paramotor. That's Kyle. Woo! All right. Holy smokes. That was good, Kyle.
Super bumpy by the river.
Let's go over here. Oh, those squats are coming in handy. But it is still a wee bit heavy with all this fuel. Clear prop. Can I MacGyver it with this key and gum wrapper in it? Gift card to Costco, is it? No, Walmart. Yeah. Boom. I think I got it with a credit card. Oh, I knew it. Let's hope for something super awesome right now. Beautiful. Bring it around town. Yay! Wow, that went really well. Woohoo! There's some things that I really wanted to talk about as far as how this glider compares to some of the more advanced gliders relative to other gliders made for paramotoring. And the Universal technically is slower with everything. Faster to take off and faster to stop running after you land because you're coming in slower, right? So this glider is very similar to Kyle's glider, which is the Ozone Spider Roadster. But these gliders are relatively similar. They are ENB gliders, which is in the intermediate category, and they're more stable, more inherently stable than other gliders. Check this out. My hands are like up. I just came out of a turn and it's straight. I'll do one more turn and demonstrate. Watch how as I turn this glider, I'm gonna come out at a 180-degree direction change and I'm just gonna let it go. Ready? Boom, it's up, it's up. The glider's rocking. Ready? I'm not doing anything with my hands. See, my hands are like super duper chill. And we're flying like practically level. We'll try it again the other direction. Here we go. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this way and release. Well, okay, I released. Now my hands are completely off. I'll stow the brakes. All right, hands are off. Hands are completely off. We just rolled out of a turn without, applying the appropriate inputs to just make the glider come out level with our inputs. This is what it did innately. It was capable of leveling off within a few seconds because the aspect ratio, which is how wide the glider is compared to how deep it is down this center line, which is also known as the chord. That up there is the chord line. The middle, if you were to dissect that glider, the chord line is the length from the leading edge to the trailing edge at the center point of the glider. The glider is not really wide across for how deep it is in this direction. There goes Kyle. I missed his launch. Looked really good though. Maybe we can use Kyle's glider to kind of compare. Although they are different manufacturers, they are in the same category. So let's go ahead and get over the top of Kyle here. Kyle over here is flying the Roadster 3. Both of these gliders could be used for beginners. It's a lot of fun to play with. Things happen at a reasonable rate, unlike more advanced gliders, because more advanced gliders have a faster profile, or a profile that allows the individuals to generally go faster. Here we go. But you can still be wildly playful on a glider just like this, racing it down this track. It's a lot more challenging for me to follow these little dirt roads compared to a much more advanced glider, because think of it kind of like a Boeing 747 trying to follow a road. Its roll rate, or the rate of roll I should say, is much slower than the F-16. That's kind of how I compare paramotor gliders, is that this thing is just like a Boeing 747, and I'll demonstrate that for you when I come up to this little dirt road right here. I actually ride this on my four-wheeler right here. And look at my rate of roll. That's me pulling a generous amount on one of the brakes. Now check this out. I'm going to go ahead and do a 180. Kyle's on that direction. I'm going to go ahead and do a 180 as fast as this can. And right now, pulling deep, and release, because the wing is going to want to fly or climb up as I exit out of that roll if I don't control my speed. But that roll was not very exceptional. That sort of a roll, to do a 180 as quickly as you possibly can, is kind of like a slalom flying maneuver. And slalom flying on paramotors is racing around pylons, and you're doing rapid 180-degree turns on your glider. And individuals who are flying slalom-style flying are, generally speaking, very heavily loaded small gliders. That is the lowest wingtip touch I've ever done, I think. We're going to climb it on up. It's a little bit bumpier down low. Bumpiness on a beginner glider compared to a more advanced glider. Well, that kind of depends. So right now, this glider is experiencing some rotor that's rolling off of these mountains. However, it feels very different than it would feel on something like my Dudek Warp, the 18-meter competition glider. When the Warp, compared to this, when the Warp encounters turbulence, it is really quick. It's really twitchy is the word that I think is most often thrown around when describing turbulence on a competition glider, hitting some serious sink. Oh shit. That is something nasty kicking off right there. We're getting out of there. Active piloting is less demanding with a beginner glider like this. I think because those rolls, like right now, these rolls are so slow. The way that the glider is oscillating and surging and kicking, holy cow, it's just like a big old wonky beast. Once again, comparing it to that Boeing 747 jetliner, when it encounters turbulence versus a small airplane like a Cessna, for example, it's just the sheer size difference that creates for these different personalities within the aircraft, just as much as this one does, being that it's a bigger, more sluggish glider. In the turbulence, it wants to roll more than rock. It wants to do that slower pitching and slower banking. On that advanced glider, the advanced glider is twitchy. Like, woo! This glider is a 10 out of 10, this Dudek Universal. Well, if I had any sort of honest critique, it'd probably be these risers. Although I like the construction, the overall construction of these risers, well, they are more bulky than other gliders that I've flown. For example, even Kyle's glider has a more slim profile on the material, on the webbing for the risers right here. They're not quite as thick. This also has because of the design, has more going on in this area as opposed to Kyle's glider or the Dudek Warp, which is actually simplified quite a bit compared to this. It does have an additional thing that this doesn't have, being it has tip steering, so there would be another line coming from this brake handle and this brake handle going to the very tip of the glider, and that's how it arrives from the manufacturer. This can be equipped with that tip steering, though I haven't done it because I feel like it'd be more like putting a turbo on a stock F-150. Why try and take away what makes this glider this glider? It is slow in the turns. It is forgiving. It is super easy to launch. There are so many great things about this that I could say about this glider, but it is just an entirely different glider than the Dudek Warp. The other thing that the Dudek Warp has that this does not have is something called power attack, which is something that combines through one movement. One motion can open up the trims and the speed system on the front part of this glider. This one, I can only use them independently. I can only use the trims by releasing this trim tab right here, or the speed system with using my speed bar if I had it attached, which would just be extending my speed bar, pulling this leading edge down. This Dudek Universal does not in any way allow me to just use my feet to bring down that speed system, increasing the speed, while simultaneously releasing the trim system, which raises the lower, the trailing edge. You can tell that the Dudek Warp that I own is built for speed. So is a glider like the Hadron 3, which also has the potential to be set up with that power attack. There are increased risks by using power attack, because when you increase the speed, when you're increasing the speed on a glider, it's changing the line lengths, basically, or it's adjusting the line lengths from the front edge to the back edge. And what happens is to go faster, it's like it's changing its angle of attack, making the glider point down a little bit more. Without an added bit of power, you would descend faster than if it was in its neutral position. So in order to compensate for that increased descent rate, you have to apply more power. This glider doesn't create for such extreme changes, especially not at the same rate of change. When you attach the power attack on a glider, when you connect that power attack, you actually have to physically change something within the riser setup that unlocks the feature, basically, the advanced feature of power attack. And it's locked for a reason, being that the glider becomes more susceptible to things like a collapse. Here we go, slalom competition for a beginner glider. It's kind of like go-kart racing compared to F1, but shit, go-kart racing is actually a hell of a lot of fun. That's the extent of my turn rate. I'm not very quick in the turns. Do you suffer from erectile dysfunction? So does this yucca. Oh, you stupid camera, every time.
The tip touching right over I-10.
Yeah.